Hello everyone. This video we're going to explain using AND OR function with if. Now let's recall that since I have two outputs, y can be either x squared or root x, so I have two outputs. For two outputs, one if function is enough, so I need only one if function. This is we know it. Now when it comes here, we explain that the condition I have it is two-sided. So each of them are two conditions. You remember that when I'm writing if function, I can do this one with what? With flowchart. I can do it with normal way. Now I will do normal way. What do we said here? We said that this is OR. We wrote it like this: x to be smaller equal to 0, or, so there is an OR function here. If you read it, by the way, mathematically this is easy. Why? You can say it's OR x greater equal to 10. Now, recalling that, if I use if here, if I say this is if, this is going to be else, yes? This is going to be for the else. Now we said that. Let's check. If x is not smaller, it's not smaller than 0. It's not greater equal to 0. It's between 0 and 10 years. So I don't need to check this one. Because if it is not here, it will be within this range. So I only use this one. I only use those conditions here with the if and with the two outputs, and that's going to be enough. I can do it on the second one. I'm going to show it to you, sure. Both of them I'm going to show it to you. Then, in the flowchart, when we're doing it, when we do flowchart, here what do we say that? Look, when I'm writing it here, I will write OR, if I use OR, x to be smaller equal to, then, look, I will write it x to be greater equal to 10. So I'm writing it again, x to be greater this time equal to 10. Then I'm going to close the parenthesis. Now imagine that I put two of them, two logics inside the OR, because we said that we cannot put two logics directly inside if. If can only contain one directly, but if you have two more, you have to put them inside OR and function, then put it inside if. So I'll say if or this is this. If it is true, it's going to come here. If it is false, it's going to come here. So I know that this case, the false contain what? Greater than 0, x, and x smaller than 10. So any values that if it's x is greater than 0, which is not here, and for the x's are smaller than 10, that's going to be the false, and it will be x squared. I believe it was like this, yes? Yes, root square in this x squared. It's root x squared. So I'm writing it like this. I believe that this is much easier because I will write it directly. If or this one, then I will write this, then I will write this. This is how I'm doing it in Excel. I'm doing it this way. If the parenthesis will open, sure there is a parenthesis here, or we'll write this one. If it is true, I'm going to write x squared. False, I'm going to write this one. Let's go back to Excel. We have x value, y value, two tables I have, basically two cells I have it here to do the calculation. We'll write it like this. If the logic test, since I have two, I have to use one of the OR and function. I'm going to use OR here. Or I'll say if x smaller or equal to 0, or, look, this is logic 1. For logic 2, it was logic 1. For logic 2, I will repeat it again. If x greater equal to 10. Closing the OR function. Now, I need you to understand this one. This says that x smaller equal to 0 or x greater equal to 10. Any of them true, x is going to come here. That's what the OR Remember, the result of this one, the result of OR, whether will be true or false. Most of the time will be true. Why? Because if one of them true, the result will be true. So x will going to come here. If this is true, we have x squared. So this is x squared. If it is not true, it means none of them true. The only case that, by the way, the only case that this one will be false, if this is not true, this is not true, then x will send it to the other one, which will be value false. And then from there we will say that sqrt square root of the x function I have it there, and I'm closing the parenthesis. Before pressing enter, I will click within the if function, then I will check the logical test. Look, the OR function completely will be selected as a logical test. This logic has only one value, whether true or false. Based on the result of this one, x is going to come here or is going to come here. And we know we use OR. Why? Because we said that if the value is less than 0 or greater than 10, I have to use x squared. That's why we use OR function here. And let's say that if the value is minus 5, is going to be 25. I'm going to copy this one and paste it here, but this time I'm going to change the function. I could use OR, look, I could use AND, but this time what do? I'm going to use x greater than 0, x smaller than 10. I'm gonna look, since I change it, everything will be swapped. I'm gonna explain this one, what I'm doing. I can use still and I'm getting the same answer. Now this is why I did this one. Some student asking question, sir, I didn't know that whether use and or. It doesn't matter. Whenever using any of them, the result must be the same, but you have to know what you're doing. Type anything here. Type, for example, 223 to be very. If the real result is here, I'm still getting exactly the same result. You realize that here I used OR, I used AND here. It's up to you. Whichever you want to use it, but you have to know what you're doing. So, if I want to use AND function, let's say I'm having this one. Now, I'm going to use this time, instead of OR, I'm going to use AND function. Now for the AND function, I must know that this AND is very strict. The AND is very strict. Look, I'm going to use this one as the AND. Why? Because AND is strict. If a number is greater than 0, but I need the number to be smaller than 10 at the same time, yes? I need a number to be greater than 0 at the same time to be smaller than 10, to somehow restricted between 0 and 10. Then if this is true, I'm gonna use square RT here, SQRT for this case of x. But if this is not true, what does it mean? It means that x is smaller, or maybe the x is greater equal to 10. Then does the false contain? In that case, I will make this one x squared. You realize that I changed everything. Now, in order to explain this one, let's explain in this manner. This is 0. This is 10. Now, when I say that x bigger than 0, smaller than 10, it must be between these ranges. I have to check both ends in order to be sure that this is where I'm using. So for a closed range, I have to use AND. We use AND here. Why? If I use OR, it will be wrong. Because if I use OR, 2 is greater than 0, yes? It is true. So it does not check for the 10. But if the value is here, it's not within this case. That's why I have to use AND. I have to check for both ends to make sure that the number is exactly between here. We call this one AND. For the OR function, we have it here and we have it here. So since this is two of them, whether this one or this one, that's why I called OR function here. This is the OR one, which is the x squared. Look, a number cannot be in both of them, yes? That's why I have to use OR function. There's another way of explaining. Can a number be bigger than 10 and smaller than 0 at the same time? No, it cannot be. That's why I have to use OR function. But can a number be greater than 0 and smaller than 10 at the same time? Yes, that's why AND makes sense there. Remember, sometimes using logic, it must make sense. I know it's not easy. I need you with this week to digest this AND OR function. Try anything that comes to your head. Like say, okay, and this. Try with your family members. That you're trying to say that if someone has a blue eye, this will be like this. I don't know. Anything that comes to your mind that a logics, that more than one logics, to see that if you be able to manage it. Remember, you only check one of them. If it is not within here, it will be within the other two cases. Now, when we finish all the chapters, I'm going to show it to you. Some people, they don't like AND OR function, yes? Don't worry. If you don't like AND OR function, you can use 2if function to solve the problem. You can use 2if function to solve the problem. And that's, I'm not going to explain right now, but I'm just going to draw the flow chart for you, at least to understand that how we do this way. If we don't like, if someone don't like, let's say you don't like AND OR function, and most of the students, they don't like it. Why? Because it's somehow tricky. You have to find something good. Now let me do something. I will do, if I don't want to use AND function, I have to use logic by logic, yes? I will say that if x is greater than 0, come here. But instead of directly, I have to use another if function. So I will link this one with another if function. I will say that, okay, x is greater than 0, yes? Is x smaller than 10? Okay, I'm checking condition by condition. A number will pass here if it is greater than 0, comes here, yes? So let me just do with a... This is another way we're doing it. A number is greater than 0, comes here. Is the number, another control point, is the number is smaller than 0, smaller than 10? Why? Because I want to check it to be between 0 and 10, yes? If it is smaller than 10, it's going to come here, then this will be the answer. Maybe the number is greater than 0, yes? But it's not smaller than 10. So I have what? I have the x squared, which is the false one here. Then I'm saying that this will be x squared. If the x is not greater than 0, is smaller than 0, will be x squared, yes? Now let me explain this one on the scale that we have it. This way, some students, they're using it, but you don't know how to use 2if right now, so you can leave it for later. But I'm going to explain for you in detail how we're using this one if you don't like the OR function. This is 0. This is 10. I'm using this at the starting point. I will say if x is greater than 0, I have two options, yes? Maybe within here, maybe within here. That's why I have two conditions there. Then I will check it to see if it is less than 10, I am within this range. That's here. If it is not smaller than 10, it means that it's here. So when a value comes in here, when the value comes here, it's already greater than 0. But it must, from here, I will separate it, put another link. Is it smaller than 10? If it's smaller than 10, I'm going to use the square root, because I know it. If it is not smaller than 10, means equal or greater, it's going to for the x squared, which is this part here. What if it's in the beginning, the x is not bigger than 0, which means that is what? It is smaller than 0, yes? X smaller than 0 is going to come here, and I know that x smaller than 0, I only have one option there, and which is, that will be x squared. I don't have root x here, yes? Anything that's smaller than 0 will be x squared. So I'm going to put x squared there. This is by using 2if. I didn't use OR function. But what did I do? I use one logic here, one logic here. Imagine I have 4 logics. I have to do this one, this manner. For some time, I have to use 2ifs. I don't have any other choice. I have to use 2if. But I don't recommend using 2ifs when you can solve it with logics. But it's possible, it's solution, it's totally fine. If you don't like the AND OR function, you can always go for the 2, but still you don't know how to nest 2 functions. Nest 2 function, I'm going to show it to you. It's a bit complicated. If you're good, you know that you're not going to make mistakes in the nested if, you can go for this one if you cannot specify the AND OR function. But it will be very long. Once I brought an exam which will be solved by 4if function, a student solved it around with 16if function. It is totally fine. But imagine 4if function way, 16if function way. Why? Because he didn't like the AND OR function. He used it like this. He was good at the flowchart. He did the flowchart nicely. He managed everything perfectly working. But this flowchart also, you must be careful that if you're doing this one, you know that what's going here. Now, a true over true. Let me just explain this one. A true over true, what does it mean? The x is already here, it's greater than 0, and the x is going to be smaller than 10. This is true on true, both of them are true. That's what does it mean. That's what we're using AND function to get here. True or false on the true, it's OR function. It is greater than 0. It is greater than 0, but it is somehow, it's going to be what? Greater, equal to 10. And you realize that this is true, false. It's basically, is it true like this? Yes. If it's smaller than 10, it's going to come here. If it's greater than 10, it's going to come here. Yes. So that's why OR will be used for this one. Or this one, OR can be used as well here. Why? Because it can directly give me this one. So I can combine them. Or this one, I can, both of them true, I can combine them with AND. Because both of them must be true. So we call this one AND. And I did both of them for you with AND. I use this one. With OR, I use the other side. Because whether this or this, look, this one or this one, I'm ending the same. That's why those two, I use them as OR function. Instead of using this schematic, I use the other one. I prefer to use what? Or I can use AND function. I hope it makes sense here how we're using this. So we have another example. I will make a video over it. It's a long example, but I'm gonna solve it, explain it in detail. One video over that one. I prefer to have it to see that combination between whether I need 2 logics, 1 logics, how we're determining whether to use AND OR function. Thanks for watching.